You've got 30 minutes. Translate this, and I'll double your pay, the Billionaire CEO said, his voice calm but carrying an edge of challenge that sliced through the air like a knife. He slid a thick, worn leather notebook across the wide mahogany desk. The notebook landed with a quiet thud, but in Daniel's mind, it was as loud as a gavel striking in court. His future might have just been sentenced, one way or the other. The office around him was unlike anything Daniel had ever stepped into. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering city skyline. A grand chandelier hung above, casting warm light over shelves of books, rare antiques, and framed photographs of the men before him shaking hands with presidents, kings, and celebrities. This was not just wealth, this was power. And Daniel felt it pressing down on him like invisible gravity. Daniel sat upright, trying not to fidget. He was dressed in his best shirt, a pale blue one he had ironed carefully that morning. The fabric was slightly frayed at the cuffs, but it was clean. His tie was borrowed from a neighbor who wished him luck. He knew how he looked, a man doing his best with what little he had. Mr. Harrington, Leonard Harrington, was a name that could open doors anywhere in the world. Self-made billionaire, tech innovator, ruthless negotiator. The kind of man who didn't waste time on people he didn't believe in. The kind of man who could change someone's life in a single meeting or end a career before it began. Daniel's eyes dropped to the notebook. The pages were filled with neat, slanted handwriting in an unfamiliar language. Some words looked like Spanish, others like Portuguese, but scattered throughout were strange symbols and archaic spellings. It was not a modern script. Where did this come from? Daniel asked carefully, not wanting to sound nosy but needing to understand the task. Harrington leaned back in his leather chair, steepling his fingers. That's not your concern. Your concern is to translate it. Fully. Accurately. You have 30 minutes. Daniel's stomach tightened. He had come here today expecting a straightforward interview for a junior analyst role in the company's international division. The posting had said, bilingual preferred, and while Daniel had grown up around languages, he'd never expected to be put on the spot like this. His mind flashed to Emily, his 7-year-old daughter, who was probably sitting in her classroom right now coloring or practicing spelling. She had Northwest idea how close they were to losing their home. No idea that her father was balancing overdue rent, utility bills, and grocery lists like a juggler with too many knives in the air. She believed he was, just looking for a better job, not fighting to keep their lives from collapsing. He picked up the notebook. His fingers traced the first line. The handwriting was old-fashioned, the ink slightly faded. His father's voice echoed in his memory, his father, who had been a translator for missionaries before passing away 5 years ago. Son, his father would say, every language is a window into someone's soul. Don't just read the words, feel them. Find the heartbeat. The first paragraph came slowly. He recognized certain roots from Spanish, but the grammar was centuries old. The symbols scattered in the margins were old navigational markings, the kind sailors used in maps. The more he read, the more his heart pounded, not from fear, but from fascination. By the 10th minute, Daniel realized this wasn't just any document. It was a letter, from a father to his child, written over a century ago. It spoke of danger, of leaving home suddenly, of hiding something precious so the child could have a better future. It was filled with longing, love, and unspoken fear. At the 20-minute mark, his hands began to tremble. The letter described a hidden location, land deed documents buried inside a sealed chest under an old fig tree on the family's estate. It gave detailed directions, and warned that the land was worth enough to secure the child's future for generations. Daniel's throat tightened. He thought of Emily. Of how far he'd go to give her security. Of the nights he'd skipped meals so she wouldn't have to. Of the promises he'd made to her that someday they'd live in a home where she could have her own room, where she could invite friends over without shame. The clock ticked down to the final minute. Daniel finished the translation, double-checking each phrase for accuracy. He slid the paper across the desk. Harrington's eyes scanned the pages quickly, then stopped. He read slower. His expression changed, subtle but unmistakable. His jaw tightened. His eyes softened. This, Harrington said quietly, is my great-grandfather's letter. I've had this for decades, but every translator I've hired has failed. They gave me fragments, guesses, but you, he looked up sharply. You didn't just translate it. You understood it. Daniel stayed silent. He wasn't sure if speaking would break the moment. Harrington rose from his chair and walked to the window, staring out over the city. Do you know what this means? Yes, Daniel said finally. It means your family had land. And if it's still there, it's worth millions. A long silence filled the room. Harrington turned slowly. You've just uncovered something I've been searching for my entire life. I told you I'd double your pay if you succeeded. I'm going to keep that promise and triple it. You're hired, Daniel. Not for the position you applied for. For something bigger. Much bigger. Daniel blinked. Sir. I don't understand. Harrington stepped forward. I need someone I can trust to lead this recovery project. Someone who doesn't just know languages, but knows the meaning behind them.